Hey friend, in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you my best art advice. I get this question quite often. People sliding into the DMs or in my email, in my inbox and asking, Jenna, I'm a new artist or I'm struggling to find my style, whatever it is, or art business or art hobby. And what is your best advice to help me grow in my art journey? And I have 3 tips for you, 3 of my best pieces of advice for you if you're an artist. Now, obviously, there's going to be really great advice out there that goes beyond these 3 pieces of advice that's going to help, and every artist is different, so maybe this won't land with you, but it has really helped my career and my hobby or my development as an artist, not just in a career, but just in general. Over the last decade that I've been painting with watercolor and pursuing it as something that I love doing and then sharing online or keeping it to myself, but just getting better at what I do. So my first piece of advice for you is to surround yourself with supportive people. I can't underscore this enough. Thankfully, I have always had really, really supportive people around me. My mom, for example, and both of my grandmas growing up were artists, and they never had any sort of pressure. There was no pressure around painting. When we'd bust out the art supplies when I was, 10 or in high school or whatever, just to have a hobby to do, we were bored or whatever the case was. There was no pressure of performing or fear of failure because it was just kind of a thing that we did to pass time. And it wasn't like we were showing our art in galleries or anything. I didn't have professional artists in the family. It was just something that we enjoyed doing. And so I was always supported in that art journey when I was growing up, even though I wasn't very good. I was just kind of playing around with acrylic paint at the time. But then as I started pursuing art more and painting more and sharing my work online or, showing it to friends or whatever, every single person around me, especially my husband, John, who is now even more supportive now because he is my videographer. Hey there.
I'm John. I am Jenna's video YouTube guy, also husband.
So he was super supportive when I first started getting into watercolor, and then friends around me saying, oh, I would definitely want to buy that from you. Can you paint something for me? So surround yourself with super supportive people, and you can scroll back super duper far on my Instagram, like literally 8 to 10 years back on my Instagram, and you can see where I started. I wasn't good, but my friends, my family, they were all very supportive and encouraging of me to pursue this hobby that accidentally turned into a business. And then my second tip or second piece of advice for you is going to be that a reminder that your art will never have a destination. You will never have, this end point of, oh, I have finally arrived and I am now the best that I will ever be. Your art is always going to change. It's always going to grow and evolve. So always have that in mind. So if you're at point A, like you literally just started with watercolor or acrylic or whatever the medium is, then you will continue to evolve over time, just like the person who's 8 years into it is going to continue to evolve over time. And maybe their style is going to change, their technique's going to get better. So especially if you're just starting out, you're going to probably feel really intimidated or overwhelmed or discouraged when you're starting out because you're looking at people who have, they're at their 8th year of painting with watercolor or whatever it is the medium is, or they've been doing it for 2 decades or whatever. So always keep your blinders on and remind yourself that your art is always going to evolve, just like everyone, as you continue to practice and move forward in your journey with whatever the art medium is. And then my third piece of advice is to draw, doodle all the time, especially sketching and drawing. So even if you're painting, you're doing watercolor, acrylic, whatever the medium, drawing and doodling can work wonders for your muscle memory. So I actually started off with sketching and ink illustration before I ever started doing or doodling or playing with watercolor. So I was doing, just random sketches, and I was a waitress in a restaurant in downtown Chicago, and I would doodle on my server book, or in college and high school and elementary school, I would doodle, write eyeballs over and over again and write my name in cursive over and over and draw circles and shade them to make them look like spheres, like 3-dimensional spheres. And so if you're drawing and doodling over something over and over again, you're getting that confidence and that muscle memory. So the third piece of advice is to draw and doodle consistently over and over again, but it really condenses down to repetition, 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 because whether you're studying doodling and drawing and that helps to inform how you paint, you also need to repeat over and over and over and over again. Maybe do art studies of specific flowers or shapes or trees or landscapes. Focus on that one thing and do it over and over again. And that muscle memory is really how you're going to develop your own style and your own comfortability with a paintbrush or whatever you're using as your tool for art. And so for me, I'm very, very comfortable with flowers. I usually don't even need to use a reference photo if I'm doing a loose style of flower, especially a flower I've painted a million times, because I've literally painted these flowers probably a million times. That's an exaggeration. But if you are just starting out with floral watercolor, you're probably going to need a reference photo or you're going to need to follow a tutorial. But the more you paint it, the more you're going to just knock it into that little noggin of yours and your hand of getting comfortable with that muscle memory and how those shapes look, what colors you like together, all of that. So my 3 best tips or pieces of art advice is to surround yourself with supportive people. Your art will always be evolving, and repetition, repetition, repetition. If you have a favorite piece of art advice that somebody has given to you along the way, or maybe you've read it somewhere or whatever, please drop it in the comments below. I'm sure there are people reading through the comments right now just looking for some encouragement, or maybe they're just starting out and they need some direction, or they're feeling stuck. Maybe that you have a creative block, you've been doing this for a while and you just feel like you aren't getting it or whatever, and you want to grow and expand, then read the comments below. I'm sure there's some really good advice. I know I'm going to read the comments because, you know, we all need advice sometimes. So I'd love to read your pieces of advice in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching our videos, subscribing to our channel, liking and commenting. It all means the world to us. We put in so much work and effort into these videos, and so every little bit of engagement counts in encouraging us to keep doing this, but then also to help it get into more people's eyeballs, get inside their eyeballs. That sounds weird. But thank you so much again, and I'll see you in the next video.